I'm Corbett Wall with DB Auction, here with your feeder flash for Thursday, October the 29th, brought to you by a brand new sponsor, Norfenicol by Norbrook. It is approved for the treatment and control of bovine respiratory disease. Its active ingredient is the bioequivalent of Nuflor, and you guys have all used that. And you remember when it's really cold outside, you'd have to put it up on the dash and have your defroster on to have it thin enough so you could get it into a syringe. This is not as thick, but the same type of a product. It comes in a plastic bottle, so you don't have to worry about breaking it. But we're glad to welcome Norfenicol as a sponsor on the Feeder Flash. On Wednesday, we saw the grains plummet, led by wheat, which happened earlier in the week. Your Kansas City wheat, hard red winter wheat, was down 17 cents on Monday, a little bit weaker on Tuesday, down again on Wednesday. But man, all of a sudden we just saw the grains fall completely out of bed. December corn on Wednesday was down 14.5 cents at 401.5. November beans down 25 at 10.57 1/4. Hogs were down too, but I tell you what, the grains really fell, and it's all because, well, your Kansas City wheat went down because of it was just freezing rain and maybe an inch or two of snow, but that's more moisture than we've had in the southern plains ever since they planted that wheat. So it went down because we saw some moisture to speak of, and actually there was quite a bit of ice all around in the Texas Panhandle. When it started melting a little bit on Wednesday afternoon, we saw some pretty significant moisture. It was water running around, but also rain in South America, so that kind of hurt your grains quite a bit. Your dollar's been stronger. You know, we're seeing China pull back a little bit from all the imports of our grains that they've gotten, but man, have they really taken it on. We saw China's corn imports from us up 1,244% last month compared to a year ago. So, and a lot of it has to do with that deal that President Trump made with China having to buy a lot of ag products from us. And that's part of the phase one deal. And they've gotten close already to meeting that quota. But that's part of the deal, is China has kind of got close to that. They're backing off a little bit. They've seen some moisture in other big regions that they grow a lot of grain and a stronger dollar. But let's talk about your futures, your cattle futures, which were up pretty good on Wednesday, and they were the only ones that were up. Which, you know, finally, normally we see everything else go up, including the stock market and everything else, and cattle are down. But historically, your cattle have ran with the stock market, but stock market was down big, kind of on new COVID fears on Wednesday, but your cattle were all higher. And it's just glad to see them go in a higher direction with all the pressure we've seen from everything else. But indeed, a pretty darn good futures market so far this week. And I don't know if it's going to hold. I mean, I don't remember the last time I saw your cattle futures go up 4 days in a row, but we did gain $1 on our nearby October live cattle, which are just about done here, but still significant that they were up $1 at 105.85. So I was telling you on the last visit that we ought to be able to get 106 in the country. Now we should be able to get 107, and it should be a done deal. And that's where a lot of guys have been priced all week. They may elevate those asking prices later on this week, but I'm sure they would probably take the $1.07. You know, that's getting pretty close to where we were just a couple of weeks ago when we'd kind of peaked out there. December live cattle futures up 62 cents at 104.67. Going out from there on your out front live cattle, they were up a dime to up 67 cents. Feeder cattle for October up 87 at 135.17, and that did indeed help your cash markets and your sale barns. They were a little bit better all around. November up $1.60 at 133.90, and your out front feeder cattle have been really good all week, gaining quite a bit of ground, and they did again. Out fronts on Wednesday were up 45 cents to up $1.52. So pretty good gains on your feeder cattle futures and live cattle futures too. So we won't complain about those today. Fat cattle trade, we saw some online sales, which was the most significant probably. About 1,250 sold from 105.5 to 106.25, and that was mostly in Texas and Kansas, with one deal in South Dakota. But on your direct sales, Iowa about 750 head, and who they found, I don't know. They caught somebody out there not paying attention, but bought a pretty big string of cattle for 101. But it was a mixed bag. They had steers, they had heifers, they had mixed steers and heifers, different grade expectations on them. So probably just a jackpot kind of a deal that they bought there at 101. But it looks bad whenever guys do that. Guys, you got to pay attention. If you're going to puke some cattle, pay attention when you do it. Do it later on in the week. Don't establish the market there. Nebraska, 1,900 head, 103, and Nebraska's probably going to start trading at quite a bit of a discount to the Southern Plains. Southern Plains is running a lot tighter right now, and in fact Texas is really running tight on market ready cattle. It hadn't been that long ago we talked about Texas being the last ones to really have the big heavy carcass problem. Now we're seeing light numbers of market ready cattle that are on the show list in Texas. Indeed, several reports of cattle being hauled from Kansas down into Texas packing plants to fill those needs. But your northern plains, they're going to be a little bit behind probably. So 103, but they could still probably get 105 or 6 this week. You just got to dig your heels in, guys. Dress price of the few that were quoted out of Nebraska was very disappointing too, from 158 to 160. Box beef cutout values, I was saying here a few visits ago that our choice had been so supportive and select was down. Well, it's just kind of flip-flop now, and it's been that way the last several sessions. But choice cuts 205.79, that was down 91. Selects were up 91 at 189.58. Your slaughter through Wednesday, kind of disappointing. There's been a little bit of maintenance going on. There's been some slick roads down the southern plains and things like that, and it's just going to impede harvest quite a bit. But 350,000 so far through the week. That's 10,000 less than last week, but still 3,000 more than the same week a year ago. Talk about your feeder cattle market. Your real-time index on DV auction late in the day on Wednesday said at 134.36. That was up $1.46 compared to Tuesday's late day, and that's very significant. But we didn't have much sales. Most of your sales were kind of either curbed receipts big time or shut down on Wednesday. So it was just Northern Plains sales and Midwest sales, and they're always going to be just a little bit higher, and they have bigger strings and fancier cattle up there. But that 134.36, your real-time index, was actually a buck higher than the latest CME feeder cattle index, which your CME feeder cattle index has been chasing your real-time index down ever since we started seeing these significantly lower markets. But now that we've seen them flip-flop, then we know that there's going to be a significant turnaround on that. So that may have something to do with your feeder cattle futures trade here, especially late in October when we're sitting in a spot month here this deep. And also look at your steer tracker on there. There's a lot of information right there, guys, and it's very, very important information. It's a very good indicator of what's fixing to happen. Your steer tracker, which is the last 25 lots of 5 or more of index cattle that we saw on Wednesday, it was sitting at 136.15, so even higher than what your index was. But look at your big sales. The biggest sale that we quote every week, OKC West, El Reno, Oklahoma, was actually canceled this week because of slick roads and bad weather. And you guys in the Midwest and Northern Plains, I know you roll your eyes at that. And I lived up there for many, many years too, and I understand. It's just we don't have anybody to take care of the roads down here. There's not that much snow, there's not that much moisture, but we don't have anybody to treat the roads. So you get out there and it's just an absolute ice rink, and you can't operate at all. And like I said, I think on our last visit, it's ridiculous that my taxes are in Randall County, Texas, are 4 times what they were in Northwest Missouri, similar type of a property, and we can't treat the roads. It's ridiculous. I mean, they got like one road grader out there and then maybe one old dump truck, you know, scattering a little bit of salt around. It ain't nearly enough. Dodge City, Kansas, winter livestock, same type of a deal. They only had 600 head, not well tested there. Get into some sales that did have some receipts and sold some cattle pretty impressively. Torrington Livestock Markets in Torrington, Wyoming had 3,600 head on Wednesday. Big calf special. Steer calves steady to $3 higher. Heifer calves steady to $3 lower. I did note that most of the receipts were unweaned, but I tell you what, those guys got those big strings of ranch calves, and they've got reputations, and they likely pulled them right off the cow, so they're fresh unweaned, which is easier than short weaned. And look at this one individual quote that I pulled out of Torrington on these lightweight steer calves. 60 head of them weighed 436 at 181 1/4. How about St. Joe Stockyards, my old stomping grounds there, selling them pretty good on Wednesday. The Bohay cattle, 133 head, 753 pound steers, bring 149.50. But they had a sale in Bassett, Nebraska on Wednesday. About 2,700 head of feeders there. Awful good run, and they had weather up there too, and it'd be a heck of a lot worse than what we're seeing in the southern plains, but guys are just used to it. They get out on the blacktops, they've got them cleared, they can get them in. Compared to 2 weeks ago, your market there, the market reporter called them steady to as much as $8 lower, which the market's been lower the last 2 weeks. It's going to be lower even in Bassett. But look at this automated market report out of Bassett, Nebraska. Look at these best tested weights of steers. They look like an individual quote, and that's all the steers of that weight that they had on Wednesday. But 276 head, 5-weight steer calves, average 556 at 159.59 on the average of all of them, guys. 288 head of the 6-weight steers, average 644 at 149.61. Now look at your bigger feeding type steers. 698 head of the 8-weight steers, average 884 at 142.13. I challenge you to find hardly any other place in the country this week that sold 8-weight steers for $1.40 or better. I think I quoted one after Tuesday's sales, but they averaged right at 700 head of them at 142.13. Biggest quote I saw out of Bassett, 74 head, 717 pound steer calves, bring $153. And that's your feeder flash for Thursday.